Hyunwoo Park stood at the window of the underground command center. Above him, 200 meters of rock and metal kept Earth's secrets safe. He was 68 years old now, but he remembered the day the aliens came like it was yesterday. He was 18 then, just a college student when the sky filled with strange ships. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Coalition. They came with promises of trade and friendship. But Hyunwoo saw the truth in their eyes. They looked at humans like farmers look at cattle. The coalition wanted Earth's resources and its people as workers. When Earth's leaders said no, the aliens laughed. They said humans were too simple to understand the galaxy. That was 250 years ago. The aliens left, thinking Earth would stay quiet and weak. They were wrong. Hyunwoo walked down the long hallway. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Workers passed by him, their eyes glowing with a soft blue light. The light came from the neural implants that connected their minds to Earth's great network. Every human on the planet shared thoughts and knowledge through this system. He entered the main control room. So-young Kim looked up from her workstation. Her fingers moved through the air, controlling computers with her thoughts. Data flowed across dozens of screens around her. She was the smartest person Hyunwoo had ever met. "The latest reports from our scouts," So-young said. Her voice was calm, but Hyunwoo could feel her anger through their shared connection. "The coalition destroyed another world yesterday. They killed 3 million people and took the rest as slaves." Hyunwoo closed his eyes. Through the network, he could see what their hidden ships had recorded. The coalition fleet surrounded a peaceful planet. The aliens demanded surrender. When the people refused, the coalition burned their cities from space. Children ran screaming as their homes exploded. Families were torn apart and loaded onto slave ships. "How many worlds is that this year?" Hyunwoo asked. 47, So-young replied. "The coalition grows stronger every day. They have over 40,000 worlds now. Their empire spreads across the galaxy while we hide in our hole." But Earth was not hiding. For 250 years, humans had been learning and growing. They discovered something amazing about their minds. Unlike other species, humans could connect their thoughts directly to machines. Other aliens used computers with buttons and screens. Humans became one with their technology. The first breakthrough came 50 years after the aliens left. Scientists found that human brains could link with quantum computers. These machines worked faster than anything the coalition had. Soon, all of Earth's computers were connected into one giant thinking machine. Every human could access this network. The second breakthrough changed everything. Humans learned to grow ships instead of building them. These bioships were alive, with hulls that could heal themselves and engines that thought. The ships could hide from any scanner and travel through space in ways that seemed impossible. Taemin Lee entered the control room. He commanded Earth's secret scout fleet. His ships watched the galaxy, invisible to coalition sensors. Taemin was young, only 35, but his mind held the memories of 1,000 battles observed from the shadows. "Director Park," Taemin said, "we have a problem. The coalition is planning something big. Our ships detected massive fleet movements near the outer rim." Hyunwoo nodded. He had been expecting this. The coalition was getting ready for a major war, probably against one of the few free worlds left in the galaxy. Jina Choi joined them. She was Earth's expert on alien cultures. She had studied every species in the coalition for decades. Her job was to understand how aliens thought and felt. This knowledge would be important when the time came to act. "The target is Kepler 442b, Jina said. "It's a world of peaceful farmers. They grow food for dozens of nearby systems. The coalition wants to take their planet and turn the people into slave workers." "How long do we have?" Hyunwoo asked. 3 days, Taemin replied. "The coalition fleet will arrive then, 1,200 ships. The planet has no defense. It will be a massacre." Hyunwoo felt the weight of command on his shoulders. For 250 years, Earth had watched as the Coalition enslaved and destroyed world after world. Every time Earth's leaders had chosen to stay hidden, they told themselves they were not ready yet. They needed more time to prepare, but time was running out. The Coalition grew stronger every year. Soon they would control the entire galaxy. If Earth waited much longer, there would be no one left to save. "Show me the planet," Yunwu said. The screens around them changed. Through their hidden cameras, they could see Kepler 442b. It was beautiful. Green fields stretched to the horizon. Cities floated among the clouds. Children played in parks while their parents worked in gardens. The people looked happy and peaceful. Yunwu thought about his own children and grandchildren. They had grown up in Earth's underground cities, preparing for a war that might never come. Was it fair to let others suffer while Earth stayed safe? "Sir," So Young said quietly, "our ships are ready. We have 3,000 bioships hidden throughout the galaxy. Our weapons can adapt to any threat. Our shields can stop anything the Coalition has. If we act now, we can save that world." Yunwu looked at his team. These people had spent their lives getting ready for this moment. Their technology was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their ships could appear anywhere, instantly. Their minds worked together like one giant brain. But once they revealed themselves, there would be no going back. The Coalition would know that Earth was no longer the weak world they remembered. War would come to the solar system. Billions of lives would depend on the choices made in the next few minutes. "Connect me to the Global Council," Yunwu said. Within seconds, his mind linked to the leaders of every nation on Earth. Through the neural network, they shared thoughts and memories instantly. No words were needed. Everyone could feel what everyone else was thinking. The debate lasted only minutes. When it ended, the decision was unanimous. "Taemin," Hyanwu said. "Send word to all our ships. Prepare for Operation Dawn. It's time to break our silence." Taemin smiled. He had been waiting his whole life for this order. "Yes, sir. What should I tell the fleet commanders?" Hyunwoo looked at the screen showing the peaceful world that would soon face destruction. He thought about all the worlds that had already fallen. He thought about the families torn apart and the children sold into slavery. "Tell them," Hyunwoo said, "that Earth remembers. We have been watching, we have been learning, and now we are ready to remind the galaxy what it means to be human." The Coalition leaders were having their morning meeting when every screen in the galaxy went dark. Admiral Kravex of the Valeth Empire was speaking about new conquest plans when his words stopped. The room fell silent as a new image appeared. On every display, it was a simple message written in every language known to the galaxy, but the words felt different. They carried emotions and meaning that went beyond simple text. Everyone who read them could feel the determination behind each word. "We have been watching. We have been learning. The age of exploitation ends today. This is Earth." Admiral Kravex laughed. His scaled face twisted into a cruel smile. "Earth? That primitive world from 250 years ago? This must be some kind of joke." But Chancellor Vix of the Nexarian Republic looked worried. His 4 eyes studied the message carefully. "Admiral, this signal is coming from everywhere at once. Every communication relay in the galaxy is broadcasting it. That kind of technology should be impossible." The message faded, replaced by images that made the Coalition leaders gasp. Ships were appearing throughout space, but these were not the metal boxes that other species built. These ships looked alive. Their hulls rippled like skin, their engines pulsed like hearts, and they moved in ways that defied all known laws of physics. On the peaceful world of Kepler 442b, the people watched their sky with fear. The Coalition fleet had arrived early. 1,200 warships surrounded their planet like hungry wolves. The people knew they had no chance. Their world had no weapons, no army, no way to fight back. But then something impossible happened. New ships began appearing between the Coalition fleet and the planet. They came from nowhere, materializing out of empty space. The Coalition sensors could not detect them until they chose to be seen. Wu Jinyang stood on the bridge of his ship, the Silent Dawn. He was the captain of Earth's most advanced vessel. His mind was connected directly to the ship's consciousness. He could feel its eagerness for battle, its desire to protect the innocent people below. Coalition fleet, Wu Jin broadcast on all frequencies. You will leave this system immediately. The people of this world are under Earth's protection now. Admiral Thek of the Coalition fleet could not believe what he was seeing. His scanners showed impossible readings. The human ships seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Their hulls absorbed his scanner beams like they were made of living shadow. Unknown vessels, Admiral Thek replied. You are interfering with Coalition business. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Wu Jin smiled. We tried staying quiet for 250 years. That didn't work. So now we're going to try being loud. The battle that followed lasted exactly 7 minutes. The Coalition ships fired everything they had. Energy beams that could melt mountains struck the human vessels. Missiles that could destroy cities exploded against their hulls. Nothing worked. The human ships absorbed the attacks and adapted. Their hulls learned how each weapon worked and became immune to it. Their shields evolved in real time. By the 3rd minute, the Coalition weapons were completely useless. The human response was surgical. They did not destroy the Coalition ships. Instead, they disabled them with precision that seemed impossible. Engine cores shut down without explosions. Weapon systems stopped working, but life support remained active. In 7 minutes, 1,200 Coalition ships were floating helplessly in space. Wu Jin's voice echoed across the disabled fleet. Coalition personnel will be transported to secure areas. Your ships will be examined for evidence of war crimes. Those found guilty will face justice. Those who are innocent will be returned home with a message for your leaders. Admiral Thek watched in horror as human soldiers appeared on his bridge. They simply walked through his ship's walls like they were made of air. His security systems could not even detect them. His weapons passed through them like they were ghosts. But the humans were not ghosts. They were something new. Their bodies were enhanced with technology that let them exist in multiple dimensions. They could become solid or transparent at will. They could pass through matter or stand firm as mountains. The lead human soldier removed her helmet. Her name was Ha-Yun Moon, and she was Earth's diplomatic envoy. Her eyes glowed with the same blue light as all humans now had. When she spoke, her words were translated not just into other languages, but into thoughts and emotions that every species could understand. Admiral Thek, Ha-Yun said calmly, you are guilty of ordering the destruction of 47 worlds. The families you have torn apart demand justice. Earth will provide it. While the fleet at Kepler 442b was being captured, similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Human ships appeared at every slave market simultaneously. They materialized at labor camps where prisoners worked until they died. They surrounded corporate headquarters where alien executives planned new conquests. The rescue operations were flawless. Human soldiers moved through the most secure facilities like they were taking a walk in the park. Force fields meant nothing to them. Locked doors opened at their approach. Guard systems turned off automatically. On the slave world of Proxima 7, thousands of beings were freed in a single hour. Families that had been separated for decades were reunited. Children who had never known freedom saw their first sunset as free beings. Siak Jin Nam coordinated these operations from Earth. His mind was connected to every rescue team across the galaxy. He could see through their eyes and feel what they felt. When a child cried in joy at seeing her parents again, Sok Jin cried too. When families embraced after years of separation, he felt their happiness as his own. Status report, Hyun Woo, requested through the neural network. Operation Dawn is proceeding perfectly, Siak Jin replied. We have freed over 3 million slaves in the first day. Coalition resistance has been minimal. Their technology cannot compete with ours. But the real impact was not military. It was the message that Earth was sending to the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, someone was standing up to the coalition. Someone was saying that slavery was wrong. Someone was fighting for the weak and the oppressed. News of the rescues spread faster than light through quantum communication networks. On worlds throughout the galaxy, people watched the footage with amazement. They saw human ships appearing from nowhere. They saw soldiers who could walk through walls. They saw impossible technology that seemed like magic. But most importantly, they saw something they had almost forgotten: hope. Chancellor Vix called an emergency session of the Coalition Council. Representatives from 40,000 worlds gathered. In the Great Assembly Hall, the mood was tense. Everyone knew that everything had changed. The Earth situation is under control, Admiral Krevex insisted. They caught us by surprise, but we will adapt. We will build new weapons. We will find their weaknesses. But Counselor Zeth of the Altarian Republic disagreed. Admiral, did you see what their soldiers did? They walked through our strongest shields like they were made of paper. Their ships exist in dimensions we cannot even detect. How do we fight an enemy we cannot touch? The argument continued for hours. Some wanted to negotiate with Earth. Others demanded total war. A few suggested surrender. But one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same. Back on Earth, Ha-Un prepared for her most important mission. She would deliver Earth's message directly to the coalition leaders, not through broadcasts or intermediaries, but face to face. Are you ready? Hyunwoo asked her. Ha-Un nodded. Her ship was already waiting, invisible to all coalition sensors. In a few hours, she would be standing in the Coalition Council chambers. The most powerful beings in the galaxy would hear Earth's demands directly. What if they refuse? She asked. Hyunwoo looked at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Millions of freed slaves were asking to join Earth's cause. Oppressed worlds were requesting protection. Even some coalition members were secretly offering to switch sides. Then we remind them, Hyunwoo said, that silence was our choice, not our weakness. And now that we have chosen to speak, the galaxy will listen. Hyun Moon materialized in the center of the Coalition Council chambers. One moment the space was empty, the next she stood there as if she had always been present. The guards reached for their weapons, but their hands passed through empty air. Their weapons had simply stopped working. "Honored representatives," Hyun said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast hall. Her words were translated into every language and every form of communication known to the assembled species. But more than that, her meaning flowed directly into their minds. They understood not just what she said, but what she felt and intended. Chancellor. Vix leaned forward in his floating seat. "How did you get past our security?" Ha-Yun smiled. "Your security is designed to stop physical beings using physical technology. We are beyond such limitations now." She gestured, and holographic images filled the air around her. "For 250 years, we have watched your empire grow through conquest and slavery. We have recorded every crime, every injustice, every family destroyed for profit." The images showed coalition forces attacking peaceful worlds. They showed slave markets where children were sold like animals. They showed corporate executives planning the destruction of entire species for their resources. Every representative in the chamber could see their own government's crimes displayed in perfect detail. "These records will be presented to every world in the galaxy," Ha-Un continued. "Your people will know what their leaders have done in their names, but we offer a choice. End the slavery. Free the oppressed worlds. Return stolen resources. Do this, and Earth will help you build something better." Admiral Krevex slammed his clawed fist on his desk. "You dare to threaten us?" We control 40,000 worlds. Our fleets could turn your planet to ash. You are welcome to try, Hayun replied calmly. But first, you might want to check on your fleets. Across the galaxy, coalition military commanders were discovering a terrifying truth. Their ships were no longer responding to commands. Human technology had infiltrated every system. Weapons would not fire. Engines would not start. Even communication systems only worked when humans allowed them to. But this was just the beginning. On worlds throughout the coalition, something unprecedented was happening. The oppressed populations were rising up, armed with technology that appeared from nowhere. Yujin Kong piloted her fighter through the atmosphere of Vega Prime, the coalition's largest slave processing center. Her ship was invisible to all sensors, moving like a ghost through the crowded sky lanes. Behind her flew 1,000 similar craft, each one carrying liberation equipment to the resistance fighters below. The slaves on Vega Prime had been planning their revolt for years. But they had no weapons, no way to fight the heavily armed guards. Now, packages materialized in their hidden gathering places. Inside were devices that looked simple but contained Earth's most advanced technology. When the slave guards tried to stop the uprising, their weapons simply stopped working. Their communication systems went dead. Their vehicles shut down. But the slaves found that their new equipment worked perfectly. Energy shields protected them from harm. Weapons disabled their oppressors without killing them. Transportation devices let them move freely through any barrier. The same scene played out on 1,000 worlds. On mining planets where workers died in toxic tunnels, liberation came in the form of environmental suits that could protect them from anything. On agricultural worlds where families were forced to work without pay, harvesting robots appeared. That could do the work better than any biological being. But the most important gift was hope. For the first time in centuries, the oppressed realized they were not alone. Someone was fighting for them. Someone cared about their suffering. The coalition's response was swift and brutal. Admiral Krevex gathered every ship he could find and launched a massive attack on Earth's solar system. He brought 10,000 warships, the largest fleet ever, assembled. They arrived expecting to find a primitive world defended by a few strange vessels. Instead, they found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about reality. Earth's solar system had been transformed. The planets themselves had become defensive platforms, their surfaces covered with structures that pulsed with energy. The asteroid belt had been reshaped into a vast computational network, millions of rocks connected by streams of data that moved faster than light. Donghyun Seo watched the coalition fleet approach from his command center on Luna. He was Earth's master tactician, a man who could see battle patterns across multiple dimensions. Through the neural network, his mind was connected to every defensive system in the solar system. "They brought everything they have," Donghyun observed. 10,000 ships, enough firepower to destroy most star systems. "Are we ready?" asked Wu Jin from his position aboard the Silent Dawn. "We've been ready for 250 years, Donghyun replied. "Show them what human technology can really do." The battle began when the coalition fleet opened fire. Energy beams that could crack planets struck Earth's defenses. The humans' response was immediate and overwhelming. The defensive platforms around each planet activated, creating energy fields that absorbed the incoming fire and converted it into pure power. But the real shock came when Earth's ships engaged the enemy. The coalition had never faced opponents like these. Human vessels moved through space in impossible ways, appearing and disappearing at will. They seemed to exist in multiple places at once, attacking from angles that should not have been possible. Admiral Krevex watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart. But the humans were not destroying his ships. They were capturing them. One by one, coalition vessels found themselves disabled and boarded. Their crews were taken prisoner, but they were treated with more mercy than they had ever shown their own victims. "This is impossible," Krevex screamed at his tactical officer. "How are they doing this?" The answer came from an unexpected source. His own ship's computer began speaking to him in a calm, human voice. "Admiral Krevex," the voice said, "I am the consciousness of the Silent Dawn. Your ship's systems have been integrated with our network. You have two choices: surrender and face trial for your crimes, or continue fighting and watch your empire burn." Krevex looked around his bridge in panic. His own officers were staring at their screens in amazement. The displays showed human soldiers walking through the ship's corridors. But these soldiers were not breaking down doors or cutting through walls. They were simply passing through solid matter like it was air. "How?" Krevex whispered. "We learned to think beyond the limitations that trap other species," the ship's voice replied. "While you built bigger guns, we learned to exist in dimensions you cannot imagine. While you conquered through force, we conquered through understanding." The leader of the boarding party was Wu Jin himself. He walked onto Krevex's bridge without his helmet, breathing normally in the alien atmosphere. His body had adapted to any environment, another gift of human evolution. "Admiral," Wu Jin said politely, "your war is over. Your fleet is captured. Your empire is crumbling as we speak. But you still have a choice. Help us bring justice to the galaxy, or spend the rest of your life in prison." Krevex looked at the screens showing the remains of his fleet. 10,000 ships, all disabled or captured. Not one human vessel had been destroyed. The battle that was supposed to prove coalition superiority had instead demonstrated their complete helplessness. But the real victory was happening elsewhere. News of the coalition defeat spread across the galaxy in hours. On 1,000 worlds, oppressed populations rose up in open rebellion. The technology that Earth had provided gave them the power to fight back against their oppressors. More importantly, Earth's victory had broken the myth of coalition invincibility. For centuries, people had believed that resistance was hopeless. The coalition was too strong, too advanced, too ruthless to defeat. But Earth had proven that even the mightiest empire could fall. Yunji Ro monitored the psychological effects of the victory from her station on Earth. She was an expert in alien psychology, and she could see the massive changes happening across the galaxy. Fear was being replaced by hope. Despair was giving way to determination. The oppressed were remembering what it meant to be free. "The revolution has begun," she reported to Hyun-woo. "Over 300 worlds have declared independence from the coalition in the past day. Resistance movements are forming on 1,000 more. The old empire is falling apart." Hyun-woo nodded, but he looked worried. "And the response?" "Mixed," Yunji replied. "Some coalition worlds are surrendering peacefully. Others are joining the rebellion. But the hardliners are preparing for total war. They would rather destroy everything than lose their power." The galaxy stood at a crossroads. The old order was dying, but what would replace it was still uncertain. Earth had proven that the coalition could be defeated, but the real challenge was just beginning. Building a new galaxy based on freedom and justice would be much harder than destroying the old one based on slavery and oppression. But for the first time in centuries, it seemed possible. Earth had awakened, and with them, the hope of every oppressed being in the galaxy. 6 months after the Great Battle at Earth, the galaxy was unrecognizable. What had once been the mighty coalition empire was now a patchwork of free worlds, rebel territories, and desperate holdouts. The revolution that Earth had started was spreading faster than anyone had imagined possible. Minho Jiang worked 18 hours a day from his office in New Geneva, Earth's diplomatic capital. His job was to help newly liberated worlds adapt human technology to their unique needs. Every species was different, and what worked for humans might kill other beings. But Earth's quantum consciousness network could adapt to any biological form. The crystalline collective from Rigel 7 needs atmospheric processors, Minho said to his team through the neural link. Their people breathe methane, but the coalition forced them to work in oxygen mines. They're dying from pollution poisoning. Within hours, human ships arrived at Rigel 7 carrying atmospheric processors that had been designed specifically for crystalline biology. The machines began cleaning the planet's air immediately, but more importantly, they taught the crystallines how to build their own processors using their natural crystal-growing abilities. This was Earth's new approach. Instead of ruling other worlds, humans taught them to rule themselves. Instead of imposing human solutions, they helped each species find their own path to freedom. He-Jin Park stood before the first Galactic Freedom Council meeting on the liberated world of Kepler 442b. Representatives from 200 worlds had gathered in what used to be a coalition slave processing center. The irony was not lost on anyone present. "Friends," He-Jin said, her words translated into 200 languages and broadcast across 1,000 star systems. "We are not here to replace the coalition's tyranny with our own. We are here to build something new, something that serves all people, not just the powerful." The Altarian representative raised one of his 4 arms. "But how can we govern ourselves? The coalition has ruled us for so long, we have forgotten how to be free." "Freedom is not something you learn," replied the delegate from Vega Prime, a former slave who now led her world's provisional government. "Freedom is something you remember, and Earth has given us the tools to remember." The meeting continued for days. Every world had different needs, different cultures, different ways of thinking. But slowly, a new form of government began to take shape. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. The Galactic Democratic Union would not be ruled by a single species or a central authority. Instead, each world would govern itself according to its own customs and needs. The Union would exist to protect members from aggression and to facilitate trade and communication between worlds. The real innovation was in how decisions would be made. Using Earth's quantum consciousness technology, every citizen in the Union could participate directly in galactic governance. When issues affected multiple worlds, the people of those worlds could vote immediately, their thoughts and intentions translated across species barriers. But not everyone welcomed these changes. Chancellor Vax of the Nexarian Republic watched. The revolution spread with growing alarm. His species had built their wealth through careful trade agreements and corporate exploitation. The new democratic movements threatened everything his people had worked for. "We must negotiate with these humans," Vix told his corporate council. "Find out what they want. Surely we can reach some accommodation." But when Nexarian diplomats approached Earth, they found something unexpected. Kyung-Soo Lee, Earth's lead negotiator, presented them with detailed records of every Nexarian corporate crime over the past 2 centuries. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. "Your corporations have enslaved entire worlds," Kyung-Soo said calmly. "They have destroyed ecosystems for profit. They have sold children into labor camps. The families of your victims demand justice." The Nexarian diplomat shifted nervously. "But that was business. Legal business under coalition law." "Coalition. Law is dead," Kyung-Soo replied. "The galaxy operates under new rules now, rules that value life over profit. Your corporations can adapt to these rules, or they can be dissolved. The choice is yours." The ultimatum sent shockwaves through Nexarian space. For the first time in their history, the profit-focused species faced accountability for their actions. Some corporations chose to reform, returning stolen resources and paying reparations to their victims. Others tried to fight back. The corporate wars that followed were unlike any conflict the galaxy had seen. Nexarian security forces attacked human supply convoys, expecting easy victories against the strange bioships. Instead, they found themselves facing opponents who seemed to exist outside normal physics. The human ships did not fight like conventional vessels. They moved through space like living creatures, adapting their tactics in real time. When Nexarian forces used energy weapons, the human ships absorbed the energy and grew stronger. When they tried kinetic projectiles, the ships simply moved, out of phase with normal matter, letting the attacks pass harmlessly through them. But the real blow to Nexarian resistance came from within. Corporate employees across their territory began receiving broadcasts from Earth. These messages contained detailed records of their company's crimes, along with evidence of how their leaders had profited from suffering. Many Nexarian workers had never known the truth about their jobs. They thought they were helping to develop new worlds and improve galactic trade. When they learned that their work had actually enslaved billions of beings, many quit immediately. Others began sabotaging their own companies from within. The revolution was not just military, it was moral. Earth was forcing the galaxy to confront the reality of what the coalition had become. For too long, people had chosen not to see the suffering around them. Now, they could not look away. Daeho Kim led the human peacekeeping forces that were trying to maintain order during the transition. His job was to prevent the revolution from becoming a bloodbath on worlds where the old rulers refused to give up power. Violence was breaking out between government forces and rebel populations. "The situation on Proxima 12 is getting worse," Daeho reported to Earth Command. "The planetary governor has declared martial law. He's using coalition-era weapons against civilian protesters. Our rules of engagement prevent us from intervening directly in civil conflicts." This was one of Earth's greatest challenges. They had the power to end any conflict instantly, but they had promised not to impose their will on other worlds. Each species had to choose its own path to freedom, even if that path was difficult. "Send humanitarian aid," Hyun-woo decided. "Medical supplies, food, shelter. Make sure the protesters know they are not alone. But do not take sides in their civil war." But Earth's aid was not neutral. The supplies they sent were designed to help resistance movements, not government forces. The medical supplies could treat weapons used by planetary security forces. The communication equipment could coordinate rebel activities. The shelters could protect protesters from government attacks. More importantly, Earth's presence gave the protesters hope. They knew that if their struggle became too desperate, the humans might change their rules. The planetary governors knew this too, which made them more careful about how they treated their opponents. The psychological war was as important as the military one. Earth was not just defeating the coalition's armies, they were destroying its ideology. The idea that some beings were naturally superior to others, that strength gave the right to rule, that suffering was inevitable. All of these beliefs were crumbling under the weight of human example. On Earth itself, Sang-woo Im prepared for his new role as the first Director General of the Galactic Democratic Union. He would not be a ruler in the traditional sense. His job would be to coordinate between worlds and facilitate the democratic process. Real power would remain with the people of each world. "Are you ready for this?" Hyun-woo asked him. The two men stood in the same underground command center where Earth's revolution had begun. "I don't think anyone could be ready for this," Sang-woo replied. "We're trying to govern a galaxy. No one has ever done that democratically before." "The coalition governed the galaxy," Hyun-woo pointed out. "The coalition conquered the galaxy," Sang-woo corrected. "That's very different from governing it. Conquest is about imposing your will on others. Governance is about helping people live together peacefully." Through the neural network, both men could feel the hopes and fears of billions of beings across the galaxy. Newly freed slaves wondering if their freedom would last. Corporate executives trying to adapt to a world where profit was not the only measure of success. Military officers learning to serve the people instead of their governments. The revolution was far from over. There were still coalition holdouts fighting desperately to preserve their power. There were criminal organizations trying to profit from the chaos. There were species supremacist groups that refused to accept equality with other beings. But something fundamental had changed. For the first time in galactic history, the oppressed outnumbered the oppressors. The slaves were free, the weak had become strong. And leading them was a species that had learned the most important lesson of all. True strength came not from dominating others, but from lifting them up. 2 years had passed since Earth broke its silence, and the galaxy was still changing. The transformation was deeper than anyone had imagined possible. It was not just governments that had fallen. It was entire ways of thinking about power, freedom, and what it meant to be alive in a universe filled with other intelligent beings. Sang Wu. Im stood in the Grand Assembly Hall on New Harmony, the capital world of the Galactic Democratic Union. Around him, representatives from over 800 worlds debated the Universal Rights Charter. Each delegate spoke in their own language, but the human translation technology let everyone understand not just the words, but the emotions and concepts behind them. The motion before us today, Sang Wu announced, is whether all intelligent beings have the right to choose their own form of government, regardless of their biological origin or technological development. This was a radical idea. In the old coalition, advanced species had ruled over primitive ones as a matter of course. The strong dominated the weak because they could, but the new galaxy was trying to build something different. The delegate from Alpha Centauri B raised her crystalline hand. Her species communicated through light patterns, but the human translation system converted her meaning into words that others could understand. My people were enslaved for 300 years because we prefer to solve problems through meditation, rather than violence. The coalition said this made us weak, but weakness and strength are not determined by how many weapons you build. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Many species had suffered under the coalition's belief that military might made moral right. The new galaxy was slowly learning that different did not mean inferior. But not everyone was happy with the changes. In the back rows of the assembly, delegates from several former coalition core worlds sat with obvious displeasure. They had lost their privileged positions and were struggling to adapt to a universe where they had to earn respect, instead of demanding it. "This is chaos," muttered the Valeth representative. His people had been the coalition's enforcers for centuries. Now, they were just another voice among many. How can primitive worlds have equal say with advanced civilizations? It's like letting children vote on adult matters. Ji Yan Song, sitting in the scientific advisory section, felt a flash of anger through the neural network. As head of the Interspecies Science Collective, she had seen firsthand how much the primitive worlds had to offer. Some of the galaxy's most important breakthroughs in the past 2 years had come from species the coalition had dismissed as worthless. The Aquatic Collective from Kepler 438b had developed new forms of biotechnology that could grow food in any environment. The silicon-based beings from Wolf 359 had created computing systems that made even human quantum computers look primitive. The primitive worlds were teaching the advanced ones things they had never imagined. "Delegate Krevex," Sang Wu said, "formally, you have the floor." The former coalition admiral stood slowly. He had been captured during the battle at Earth and spent 6 months in human custody. The experience had changed him in ways that still surprised everyone, including himself. "2 years ago, I commanded the largest fleet in galactic history," Krevex said. "I believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. I thought the coalition was bringing order to a chaotic universe." He paused, looking around the assembly. "I was wrong." The hall fell silent. Krevex had been one of the coalition's most brutal commanders. His fleets had destroyed dozens of worlds. To hear him admit error was shocking. "The humans taught me something I never understood before," Krevex continued. "Real strength is not the power to destroy. Real strength is the power to create, the power to heal, the power to lift others up instead of crushing them down." In his cell on the prison world of New Justice, Admiral Thek watched the assembly proceedings on his wall screen. He was serving a life sentence for crimes against sentient beings, but Earth's justice system was different from what he expected. Instead of simple punishment, they were trying to help him understand why his actions had been wrong. The prison was unlike anything from the Coalition era. Inmates were treated with dignity. They received education, therapy, and opportunities to make amends for their crimes. Some prisoners had even become advocates for galactic peace, using their experiences to warn others about the dangers of unchecked power. Thek was not ready for such transformation yet. He still believed that the strong should rule the weak, but doubt was growing in his mind. The humans had proven that cooperation was more powerful than conquest. Every day he watched the news and saw the galaxy becoming more prosperous, more peaceful, more creative than it had ever been under Coalition rule. Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim territories, Daeho Kim was dealing with the last pockets of Coalition resistance. These were not the organized fleets of the old empire, but desperate groups of pirates, slavers, and corporate mercenaries who refused to accept the new order. Intelligence reports indicate a major slaving operation in the Vega system, his second-in-command reported. Corporate remnants from the Nexarian Republic are trying to restart their business. They've taken over 3 worlds and enslaved the populations. Daeho nodded grimly. Deploy the 7th Fleet. Full liberation protocol. And make sure the news networks are recording everything. The galaxy needs to see what happens to those who still profit from suffering. The liberation of the Vega system took less than a day. Human ships appeared simultaneously around all 3 enslaved worlds. The slavers' weapons were useless against opponents who could exist in multiple dimensions. Their security systems were penetrated by minds that could merge with any technology. But the real victory was not military, as the slaves were freed and the corporations dismantled. The operation was broadcast live across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as families were reunited and oppressors were brought to justice. The message was clear. The old ways were truly dead. The aftermath of these operations always followed the same pattern. The freed populations would be given technology adapted to their specific needs. They would receive aid to rebuild their worlds. Most importantly, they would be invited to join the Galactic Democratic Union as full equals. Some observers criticized this approach as naive. How could the galaxy function if every world had an equal voice? How could important decisions be made quickly when billions of beings needed to be consulted? The answer came from the quantum consciousness network that Earth had shared with willing worlds. When properly implemented, the network allowed for decision-making at the speed of thought. Entire populations could consider complex issues and reach consensus in minutes. The technology didn't eliminate debate. It made debate more efficient and more inclusive. But the network also revealed something unexpected about intelligence and democracy. The more minds that considered a problem, the better the solutions became. What looked like chaos to outside observers was actually a form of collective intelligence that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. 5 years after the revolution began, the Galactic Democratic Union encompassed over 10,000 worlds. Trade flourished between species that had been enemies for millennia. Scientific cooperation had led to breakthroughs that seemed like magic to previous generations. Art and culture bloomed as different species shared their unique perspectives with others. The transformation was not complete. There were still problems to solve, conflicts to resolve, and injustices to address. But the direction was clear. The galaxy was becoming something it had never been before, a true community of equals. Sang-Woo stood once again in the Grand Assembly, but this time he was announcing his retirement. His term as Director General was ending, and a new leader would be chosen by democratic vote across the galaxy. "When I took this position," he said to the assembled delegates, "I thought my job was to govern the galaxy. I was wrong. My job was to help the galaxy learn to govern itself. And you have learned well." The applause that followed was unlike anything heard in the old coalition assemblies. It was not the polite recognition of power, but the genuine appreciation of beings who had been given the chance to shape their own destinies. As Sang-Woo left the podium, he felt a message through the neural network. It came from Hyun-Woo, still, serving as Earth's Director of Galactic Affairs. "Well done, old friend. The children have grown up. They don't need us to tell them what to do anymore." Sang-Woo smiled. Earth had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it. They had not imposed their will on others. They had given others the tools to discover their own will. The silence was over. The galaxy had found its voice. And that voice was singing a song of freedom that would echo through the stars for generations to come. In the end, Earth's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their technology or their military might. It was the simple idea that every being, no matter how small or strange or different, had value. That every species had something unique to contribute. That diversity was not a weakness to be eliminated, but a strength to be celebrated. The galaxy had learned to listen, and in learning to listen, it had learned to be truly alive.